Hello, Christopher. Another
Hello.
week ahead of us.
Oh, yes. And how's it going out there on the West Coast, David?
It's wonderful. It's hot. It was 85 degrees. We got, really hot weather and a drought that's starting. So,
Oh, gee. Well, before long, then the landscape will go up in flames as the winds shift and come down from the desert valleys there. So, being a native of Los Angeles, I do appreciate the craziness of the energy out there. I mean, when I was living out there in the 60s and then back again in the 70s, California has its own unique vibration, but especially that region you're in, Southern California, from Ventura south, it is an altered state of consciousness. You don't just live there, you have a deeper sense of being there.
yes, it is a deep, deep sense of being. And especially during these times, I think we're all looking for that deeper sense of being. And it's being redirected with this Venus and Capricorn, I think, with new partnerships and value systems. And you and I are recording this on a full moon. We left a week of a full moon, and we're ready to really push forward now into a week of really understanding more of where that deeper sense of self is gonna go now. I think we have really understood a lot of our feelings inside, and we're ready to take some action on that stuff.
Absolutely. I think one of the things that this full moon did was it was a trigger mechanism. It really was like the release point for all of these different angular activities with the planets. We had a lot of either exact or very close to exact squares going on, and sextiles and trines. So there was a very intense dance that accompanied this full moon in Cancer in opposition to the sun in Capricorn. And it had the effect, I think, of being like a summation of the last year and a half, 2 years. And then it was also a release, but it was that kind of release where it was kind of a pat on the back from God saying, move forward. You have done your work. You have experienced the depths of all the transformative energy, and now the tension's going to start to go off a little bit. Things are going to calm down, and you're moving into a much more gentle period here before the next set of fireworks coming up.
Yeah, I think we are about to come into another fireworks show. This is the last week of Capricorn energy, and Capricorn energy, this is the last weekend, basically. This weekend we, I think, get our last plans together. We really look at, what the meaning was of the last 4 weeks, especially as December 21st was when Venus went retrograde, and I think, it also happened when the sun entered Capricorn. So I would say that the last 4 weeks was about a new direction of our internal, stories of what ladders to climb, what goals we need to achieve, and where we need to go next. That's alignment in destiny. And Aquarius that comes in this week is going to be really exciting because Aquarius wants to really go way out there. I mean, it wants to see everything, but it also wants to, try new things and really experience the excitement as much as it can and the feeling of freedom. And I feel this sense of freedom with Mercury that we've had for this last week start to build, but it will be after we come out of this weekend. And I think we really come into this next week here, just guns starting to blaze, new feelings arising. We will have the moon in Leo through this weekend before that Aquarius energy comes in. So we already start to build our heart and build this happy vibe up, and it comes into a week of real good positive energy.
Yeah, it's kind of like if you go to Scandinavia, they have the saunas over there. You go in and you sweat yourself almost comatose with the intense heat. Well, for me, that was that passage of the sun literally inflaming the energy of Capricorn and doing that very magical volcanic activity as it moved across Pluto, and we had all of this stuff coming up from the depths. And then, as we're starting to move across that barrier from Capricorn into Aquarius, it's going to be like running out of the sauna and rolling in the snowbank. It's not going to be just cool. It's actually going to be cold, but it's going to be a shock to the system. We're going to feel a new level of vitality, I think, as the sun makes its journey through Aquarius this year. And one of the major events while the sun will be making that journey will be for Venus, as you were talking about, moving backwards and just coming to that point of like slightly kissing Pluto in Capricorn and then saying, okay, that's enough of this, and starting to run away again. So we're going to see things speed up mid-month in February with all this Aquarian shift going on. But right now, it's going to be like getting out of that sweaty, hot, tumultuous kind of energy and into this very airy, brisk, breezy, Arctic almost kind of energy. So yeah, big shift coming up this weekend.
Yeah, because there's a lot for us to figure out. I think Aquarius is where we figure it all out. We finally learn to connect the dots together. And a Venus retrograde really shifts our perceptions of our life. I always think it's one of the most karmic events that happen. I always call it the, well, I think especially because it's in Capricorn, I've been calling it the strategy, the chessboard rearranging, us replacing all of our, pieces back and starting kind of a new game and with a new strategy. I was a big chess player growing up, so I think Capricorn and Venus retrogrades go well with that, as we really have to pick new strategies, pick new roads, pick new destinies, and all of it has been starting to brew as Mercury came in last week. We're starting to, I think, figure out why we're starting to see these shifts in people, these shifts in value systems, these shifts in these roads. But I think when the sun comes into Aquarius on Monday, it just blasts an amazing feeling like you described of, aha, a shock to the system. This is what's going on. And it really is positive because the moon will be in Virgo as this happens, for us to really kind of embed in this reality, really start to get to the bottom of everything that we're grounding in, and it will make trines to Pluto. It will make a trine over to Venus, and it's going to highlight this shifting that's going on in these realms of relationships and new things that we're manifesting, and really start to bring, I think, a grounded understanding of what's going on and a really excited feeling to now kind of go, I know why God tapped me on the shoulder a little bit here.
Yeah, it's the big revelatory cycle that comes in. And, the moon that we just had, the full moon we just had, was a wolf moon. And as far as its proximity to the Earth, it is the smallest full moon because it's the furthest distance away of all the full moons each year. But at the same time, the new moon that we had preceding that and this coming new moon are both going to be very, very close to the Earth. And these are super moons, and they are going to they're going to reflect the intensity of this last full moon, because the last full moon had so much activity going on with the other planets. I mean, normally it moved through Cancer and you really wouldn't notice it. But this year, because it was setting off all of these different planets, it was very intense, and now that super moon is going to bring it to us. It's going to pull it into us, and we finish the processing. We get the deeper picture. We understand things on a more gut level, and that's when we were able to finally clear our head with that positive energy, the sun moving through Aquarius, good old Mars down there bouncing around in Libra, adding some juice and a nice open trine. And so it's going to be a very intense new moon coming up in a couple of weeks. But more importantly, this period between this last full moon and the coming new moon is going to be a very deep, intimate, personal journey that each one of us is going to have the opportunity to take. And of course, it's up to you to take it. You have to be willing to do the work, to plumb the depths, and to reach out to people around you and express the feelings that you're noticing within yourself.
Yeah, we have to, especially because all this depth you talked about, this gut feeling that's coming our way, is the nodes on the end of this Scorpio-Taurus realm. This deals with heavy manifestation. It deals with heavy amounts of our intuition, and the universe is really focused on this spot, getting down to our truth, getting down to the core of connection. And there's only a couple more weeks or about a month left of this, you know. I mean, it's going to leave pretty fast here. We're going to see the node shift into Aries Libra, which, you know, the north node coming into Libra is about balance, about harmony. And even though I'm already looking ahead, I think it's important by the shifts we're making now, the depth that you described right now is so important, because once we're connected, I feel that it allows us to find harmony. It allows us to know the truth. It allows us to know how deep we can go, so we can start making better judgment calls in our life, so we can start finding that harmony again. And this period that we have gone through for 18 months, because the nodes are in for 18 months. They're in for a long time. They don't just, you know, affect us very quick. They affect us on a long-term scale, because we get multiple, you know, eclipses in these spots. And I think it was a blessing to have all these eclipses in Scorpio and in Taurus, because it's regrounding us in deeper spirit than ever. It's making us let go of values, let go of a reality, and it's kind of like a hoarder having to purge out his, you know, big you know, garage in the back, you know, and we're clearing out so much, and it's a great moment for us to finally, I think, this week get this exciting feeling like, you know what, because the node is going to be squared by the sun, but I think it's a positive reflection that if we're going to excite ourselves, if we're going to connect, we got to remember it's a deep connection inside is where our power is.
It absolutely is. And, you know, as a planet approaches that final degree of a sign and then transitions into the next sign, the space between the integration of those two forces, that 30th degree of one sign, which is 0 degree of the other sign, right before it moves into that next sign, at the 29th degree, that is referred to as a critical degree. The 29th degree is where you are getting the big synopsis. That's, you know, that final whack upside the head. Here's the lesson of your particular planet in this particular sign. As the moon's nodes progress from house to house, they go backwards. And so we have to look at that 0 degree mark and the 1 degree of everybody's chart. When that node hits that 1 degree of Taurus and that 1 degree of Scorpio, you are going to get the big aha moment. There's going to definitely be a lot of revelatory energy moving through the universe. And it's kind of like having the veil removed, so you can get the big picture of what the last 18, 19 months have been all about. So again, we're watching this dance, and we're seeing how planets moving forward, going retrograde. The moon's nodes don't do a forward movement, and they don't retrograde. They are always in that state of moving backwards. And that's very much a strong and profound statement of their activity, because they're pulling you out of the past and putting you into the future. And it is going to be an interesting, almost like popping the cork on the champagne bottle when the node finally flips over into Aries and Libra. It's going to be a nice polarity.
Yeah, and I think we're going to feel a lot of this on Tuesday, Wednesday, as the moon comes into Libra, and it's going to, you know, trine over to the sun. It's going to hump over Mars, trine over to Mercury. I think that feeling of really starting to understand a lot, really coming to the bottom of a lot of areas in our life and understanding this Venus retrograde, I really think that everything is primed up for Tuesday, Wednesday, because that's when the moon's going to be in the cardinal cross, but it's also going to be in the trines to Aquarius. So, you know, even though I think there's a lot happening, I think there's a positive understanding in which directions to take, where to move, and by the end of that transit, we're going to see the moon cross over that 0-degree spot of Scorpio where the node is going to be moving closer to, and I think we'll start to feel what we describe. We're feeling a shift in the tides, a shift in the energy, a shift in the frequency. You know, we're starting to feel it, because I would say, you know, because the North Node is at 3 degrees, we're already in a conjunction that's starting to happen here into the next sign. We're already in a shifting moment. You know, the walls are getting thin, and we're moving on to the other side. The Berlin Wall's starting to break, and this is one of those moments that starts to arise. And I'm sure the Berlin Wall moment of life would be a great way to kind of describe the feeling that could come this week out of the many things that are happening in your life, of this feeling of the walls are starting to tear down. There are new territories to explore, new areas to go into, and I think that also registers with Jupiter well. What do you think this T-square that we're going to start to see with Jupiter in the Pluto-Uranus square means, Chris?
Well, you know, I think that as Jupiter is continuing to move backwards in conjunction with the nodes, interestingly enough, because, you know, the nodes are trying to process off all of the Taurus Scorpio energy, as you mentioned, that Jupiter effect is going to be able to actually pull from the two elements that are in such stress points. So we're actually going to see it's almost like a final release. It's almost like having a clogged toilet, and you finally are able to break it free. So this Jupiter movement backwards and getting closer and closer to that, you know, it's going from 13 to 11 to 12, and then finally resting at 10, and then going to direct again. But it's like that final rotor-rooter guy coming out and cleaning out the pipes. Is the way I would perceive it. You're going to be able to actually get that deep, profound sense of release that you have been sensing that you need, but you're not quite sure as to how you're going to manage to manifest it. And this is definitely the kind of energy that is going to become very, very visceral. It is going to come into that level of extreme physical manifestation and release. So it's going to be very exciting, very positive for most people. If you're in resistance, then it's going to be like a baseball bat upside the head.
Yeah, Jupiter is a funny planet, you know. He's the biggest. He's bigger than all the planets even combined. And when you combine them all, I mean, he's such a big beast in the middle of a Pluto-Uranus square. Resistance is, I think, what closes the doors. Jupiter's wanting to open doors, find these exciting new traits, step into these powerful changes. And it has to deal with, I think, how you can emotionally react. And we are dealing with cardinal energy, which is about directions and move changes in seasons. And, you know, you got to allow the seasons to change in your life through this period that we're about to step into. And Jupiter was wanting to open lots of doors in your life. Jupiter in Cancer is exalted, which means that it does really well here. Jupiter has this sense of loving to feel comfortable and to be in the home and to feel and to laugh and to have all these things, because it is the feeling that allows Jupiter to, I think, enjoy the journey. So, you know, without these feelings, without these comforts, you know, we have to be able to shift them and not be able to try and control things. I think this is highlighting control heavily, because Pluto comes to 12 degrees this week, which Pluto has not been to 12 degrees since the 1700s. So we have all not been through this. And, you know, we're opening the doors into some really powerful places we've all never seen. And as spiritual people here, I wouldn't be surprised if some real new events in the world that seem different that we've ever seen might pop up, because we are dealing with the Aquarius energy. And secondly, Pluto crossing into the 12th degree enters a zone that nobody on Earth has been alive for.
Exactly. The other thing that's going to be interesting and that I keep going back to and referencing as all of these different configurations continue to unfold is we've got Chiron sitting up there in Pisces at 10 degrees. So as Pluto and Uranus are in the stress points and Jupiter moving through Cancer, is causing that stress point to completely fill out in that T-square, as you were mentioning, Jupiter also is coming to an exact trine of Chiron. And Chiron is that need for healing. In order for you to fulfill yourself, and in order for you to heal those around you, you have to be able to allow yourself to release the traumas, the fears, the frustrations that have caused the illness, the dysfunction, the disease. So again, it goes back to that image of systemic healing going throughout your body, throughout your consciousness, and extracting all of this toxin that has accumulated over, you know, days, years, decades. Not too many people have seen centuries, but I think we're going to be seeing more and more of that as we continue to advance. But yeah, a lot of healing energy in conjunction to this particular configuration.
There is. It has to. And especially I feel that this new age we're stepping into requires an immediate healing to be able to come into this new ground, because it doesn't want toxicity in the new age. So that's part of this cycle. And on top of all that, I think when you see that the doors that are opening are only ones that are to really heal you and that are of pure spirit. Like, you can't walk through these doors anymore with, you know, crap in your back pocket or toxicity, as you described, or, you know, ego either, because this is definitely not egotistical energy at all. When you deal with all this Capricorn, I mean, with all this Chiron energy in Pisces and Jupiter in Cancer, it's deep inner stuff. It's very sensitive stuff. It's vulnerable topics. And it's exposing and bringing up with Saturn, you know, in Scorpio, these deep, vulnerable places. And I think those that are so attached to looking a certain way or being a certain way and not being able to be vulnerable in it are the ones that need to be healed the most. I think those that are very allowing of understanding and exposing their truth of what's wrong, or, you know, what is difficult for them, and not caring that is not, that if it represents them or not, are the ones that can allow. It's almost like a baptism, like, you know, washing away your sins in many ways. I mean, it kind of is, that's kind of the transit in a weird way.
No, it absolutely is, because look at where the major action is occurring. It's occurring in water. So, and that water is, it's a water triplet, you know, because of Saturn's position in Scorpio, even though Saturn is kind of offline as far as having a direct impact in this. It's kind of standing in the background and saying, well, there's still lessons to be learned here. You haven't completely finished up all of this spiritual, emotional reconciliation that potentially can happen within the individual's day-to-day existence. So it's going to be a very powerful, positive transition into Aquarius. I think that we're going to see a lot of people get outside of their darkness, get outside of their melancholy and their frustration, and their rage and their fear, simply because, like I said, it's going to be like a shock to the system. You're going to run outside and roll in the snowbank, and all of a sudden the world is going to look a lot more clear, and you're going to have a higher level of vision restored. So it's going to be a good passage for us.
Yeah, what do the cards say?
Well, the cards say we are moving into, now this is one of the most Aquarian cards in the deck. This is a star card. And this is saying when you wish upon a star, you can definitely surprise yourself and those around you with that which is attainable. And if we look at this image here, we've got this individual, this little goddess, I guess you could call her, being the water bearer, carrying the water in vessels and restoring it into that deeper flow. And that really is what Aquarius often does, is it carries us to the edge of the ocean. It takes us to the edge of the sea. So the star is the weekend's energy of preparing us to move into that more powerful energy of the sun in Aquarius. There is a little bit of a hesitation coming up. We've got the Hanged Man as we move into the beginning of next week. The way I would interpret that is what we were talking about with the nodes. I think the nodes, right before they make this significant shift, they're going to kind of cause us to be suspended in time. They're going to cause us to stop and look and ponder the events of the last 18 months. So that's going to be very appropriate on Monday, Tuesday. People calling each other out as we move into next week. You know, Aquarius and Libra and Gemini, all three air signs, it's all about communication. And people are, I think, going to be demanding the truth from themselves and from each other. The Five of Swords is a card of deception, miscommunication, that sort of thing. And I think people are going to get outed as we start moving into the next couple of weeks. And you often see that happen with the Aquarius energy, because Aquarius likes to have the collective be true to itself. The mid part of the week gets really nice and grounded and earthy, because we'll have, you know, we'll have gone through that trine of the moon moving through Virgo and finishing off its positive influence there with the energy in Capricorn. So next week, people have been working and putting effort into making something new happen in their lives. They're going to start seeing the manifestation of that. It's going to come down and it's going to become very physical, very clear, and you know, very very tangible, I think, for people. And then the final card for next week is the Union of Forces, the marriage card, the Four of Rods. And so you may find that you're drawn into new associations, drawn in new directions, making new connections. And this Union of Forces, once again, is restoring that Aquarian theme to our day-to-day life, which is being in service to the collective, all of a sudden having serious concerns, perhaps about the fact that there are children starving in Africa and India and South America and Oklahoma and all over the planet. I think that it's going to bring out a kind of a humanitarian essence in our day-to-day consciousness, in our thinking about, you know, my life and what am I contributing to other people's lives.
It is a really good card setup. I think the most interesting card to me was that Five of Swords, the outing you described. We are coming off a Mars-Venus square as well. We are in the middle of a Venus retrograde, especially the last card you picked. That also deals a lot with partnership. And, you know, I think the partnership energies really are a headliner. That's what a Venus retrograde still represents, is the headline still is, no matter what, these relationships. And you're right, Aquarius wants to detach, but it also has something new. So it's not like we leave without somebody or something new there. It's a very unique position. You know, it's shifting and getting prepared. And I think that Hangman goes really well with the node square that you described, because it is like, it does hang you in there as you prepare for it, because really, I think air sign energy doesn't like to be still, and it forces a still moment intellectually to really process things, you know?
Exactly. Absolutely right. And, you know, once again, as we look at the sun's progress into Aquarius, we also associate that with the activity of Uranus. Uranus rules Aquarius, and it's going to be sextiling the transiting Uranus in Aries. And the interesting thing about Uranus is that all the other planets have a north-south axis. Uranus has an east-west axis. So it's the planet that goes around the sun at its own pace and pursuing the beat of a different drummer in every way. So a very eclectic energy, very much like Paris or San Francisco, is going to be very, very visible as we move into Aquarius this year.
Yes, I'm actually really looking forward to that sextile. You know, Uranus coming to 9 degrees. It's exciting. It's getting ready to come into the bigger degrees, and there's a lot that we have shifted for, and I feel the energy is a lot lighter than it was this time last year, and I think a lot of that is this Saturn energy, which we have dug really deep into with Scorpio, and there's a lot that we've uncovered. And even though there's still more Saturn to talk about, especially in the next couple weeks, you and I will be going deeper into Saturn. I think this week Saturn is not a main event. So I think a main event this week really is dealing with the sun and dealing with the shifting of energy and the fixing and the fixing of energy, a solid energy that really excites us and jolts us. So thank you for an excellent report with me today. I loved it. I really did.
That was great, looking at the movement of the planets and observing the unfolding of time and events. You have a spectacular week, and take the kitty cat out for a prowl tonight. You'll probably have fun on the streets of Hollywood.
I will, buddy. Well, thank you so much, and I'll see you next week.
Sounds great. Take care.
All right, bye.